All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to 1 Million Cups. So we meet most every Wednesday, although I believe this is our wrap-up meeting for this year, if I'm not mistaken. So welcome to 1 Million Cups, where we are caffeinating entrepreneurs nationwide from coast to coast every Wednesday. Next slide, please. So we are sponsored through the Kauffman Foundation. They generously work with each of the chapters and founded 1 Million Cups. The Kauffman Foundation works with communities in entrepreneurship and education to increase opportunities in both national as well as local missions. We'll talk about that allow all people to learn, to take risks, and ultimately to own their own success. Next slide, please. So we have a national and a local mission. So we have chapters throughout the country, but our chapter is nestled in Fairfax County, and we work on our mission through a consistent educational experience where we highlight both the shared problems, right, of entrepreneurs everywhere in the US, but also highlight the uniqueness and the value proposition that we bring to each local community. But there's a couple of key pillars that we always like to review that are really important. So for 1 Million Cups, these are presentations, not pitches. So we want you to present your business challenge, a business issue, a business opportunity, and think through that, but not simply pitching. We want authentic connections with one another, not simply networking. This is run for the community, by the community, and we are radically and intentionally inclusive. Next slide, please. So I'd like to welcome any visitors. If this is your first time with us, or if this is your first time in a long while, we'd love if you would raise your hand. You can either use the icon or you can just raise your hand on the screen. And I would love to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself when called on. Please share your name, your company's name, and how you heard about us.
Nancy, Europe.
Go, Nance.
So I'm Nancy Green. My company is ND Green PC. I heard about you through the Fairfax Central Community Chamber. Yeah, I always get their name wrong, but the Fairfax City Central Chamber and Jennifer Rose. And that's why I'm visiting you guys today. It's my first, that's it, Central Fairfax Chamber. Thank you so much. I always get it wrong.
Nancy,
that's
we're
why I'm
so
visiting
glad.
you guys. I've been wanting to visit you guys for a while, and the schedule just finally worked out.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
We're very glad to have you. Any other visitors or new faces? All right. Seeing none, let's move to the next slide. So one of the things that is really helpful for us is when we get an accurate count of who attended on what dates. So if you have your phones handy, please feel free to scan this QR code or visit the link so we can just capture the information of who attended today. And so if you have your phone, just scan the QR code and we can know who has been here today. Next slide. If you have a New Year's resolution and you're thinking, I want to get more involved in the community, more involved with entrepreneurship in Northern Virginia or anywhere in the country, consider joining our team. So meet our organizing team. We have a great team that make this happen every week, as well as a team of ambassadors who are out in the community and are engaging people, engaging businesses, engaging with chambers and other local community groups and saying, hey, we want to bring great entrepreneurs into our 1 Million Cups Fairfax community. So if you know anyone that is interested in being a part of either the organizing team or the brand ambassadors in the new year, we would love to have a conversation with them. Next slide, please. And so for this, I'm going to hand it off to part of my team to introduce both the Mason Enterprise Center and Red Sky.
Thanks, Scott. For the Mason Enterprise Center in Fairfax, they are our location sponsor. Eddie Hill is a fantastic partner with MEC. It is an incubator that's open to anybody in the Northern Virginia market and beyond. If you are looking not just for office space, but dedicated mentors, they have over 18 mentors that they work with. So if you're looking to scale your business, there's lots of great insight and resources. They have great programming. And again, they're right off of 66. So super easy to get around in the area. Again, reach out to Eddie Hill. You can also check them out at mec-fairfax.org. We are meeting there in person January 8th with lots of swag for 1 million cups. So I know Maria has been waiting patiently for swag, and for other folks who've been attending, you shall receive some too. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Steve, our coffee sponsor.
Good morning. Red Sky Money is a nonprofit organization committed to addressing the crisis of low financial literacy among those new to the workforce. We empower people with tools, knowledge, and confidence to address their financial needs, both now and in the future. If you know of anyone who would benefit from financial coaching, or if you know of anyone who would like to support our mission, please have them reach out to us at redskymoney.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. So I want to talk a little bit about how our meeting works. So we want to make sure that we are following all of the procedures. So we're going to have a presenter who is going to present their business idea and their challenge. Please listen intently. Be thinking about questions that you want to ask, comments that you think would be helpful or put them in a position to succeed. We want to make sure that all of our questions are thoughtful and respectful and inclusive and in the spirit of 1 million cups, but also make sure to unmute yourself, right? Raise your hand. We will call upon you. We will ask you to unmute, ask your question. Please make it brief, right? Or as brief as is reasonable. And then unmute yourself and we will move to the next question or comment. Next slide, please. All right, and we have the pleasure of having Belinda presenting from Sweetgrass Advisory Group. Very excited to have Belinda here today for our final 1 million cups presentation of the year. So thank you so much, Belinda, and I will hand it off to you.
Great, thank you so much. Let me get my screen ready to present here. And we'll just take just a moment to... Can you guys see my screen?
We can.
You can hear me perfect. So I just want to start out by saying good morning, introducing myself. My name is Belinda Jackson Farrier. I am the founder of Sweetgrass Advisory Group, which aims to coach executives on their next steps, to help them bring clarity to what they would like to see happen in their lives, whether it's a pivot or perhaps a goal with their teams, and then to help them map out a strategy to reach that. Why I chose the name Sweetgrass because it's a nod to my mother being from the Gullah community of South Carolina, and then that community, people use sweetgrass to weave baskets. So the thought here is that sweetgrass allows you to weave stories, weave a journey, and it is also a nod because it's used internationally to my international experience. Here's a little bit about what we'll do today. And I want to just briefly touch on when we last met and a little bit about myself. So we last...
Belinda, can you go to full screen? Because I'm seeing what looks like a Canva screen. Or is it just me?
Oh, it says screen sharing is paused. Yeah, I'm seeing the screen. Okay,
We'll just reshare.
Okay. So how about... Let me just try it again. Do you guys see my full screen now?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay,
We're seeing
let's
a
hope it
video.
stays there. All right, great. So today I'll just take some time to introduce myself, refresh you on what I discussed previously when I presented last spring, and kind of bring you up to speed on where I am now and the challenges that I'm facing going into 2025. So just for those who weren't at my last presentation, I am a former US diplomat with about 22 years of experience, mostly working in Latin America and Africa, leading teams globally and working a lot on crisis management and crisis communications. When I retired from the diplomatic service, I went to work at YouTube, where I ran a global, essentially operations center handling real world issues that kind of brought brand risk or real world risk to the platform. I was at YouTube for about 18 months before starting Sweetgrass Advisory Group last year. So the company aims to take advantage of my executive leadership experience, both in government and in the private sector, and my experience kind of leading nuanced, high performing, fast paced teams and working under pressure. So when I last came to you all, I was really struggling with how to bring all of these skills together into one company and how to formulate these skills into a clear product or clear message and a clear audience that I could reach. Since we last spoke, I started working with a great coach named James Lawson, who has helped me find clarity in my life as well. And James has really helped me better define that niche, better define the focus, and really develop a strong go-to-market strategy. I've also been able to uh, think more clearly about leveraging the networks I have for uh, identifying potential clients, and demonstrating my expertise in the marketplace. And so we'll talk a little bit about a podcast that I have with a former colleague of mine that is coming up on its 1 year anniversary, but really has been able to help get the word out about my company and get the word out about my experience. And then again, working with James and just also learning by experiencing, I've been able to develop products, workbooks, etc., that I've used to reach potential clients. So right now I'm really focusing on this idea that I am a coach that helps people find clarity. People often reach the pinnacle of their career and they think, I've worked really hard to get all of these promotions and I'm at the apex of my company, but I'm still not happy. And so helping people become clear about what are their real goals, is this place that they're in the place that they really need to be? Or is it time to think about a pivot? Either way is fine, but really helping people understand what they really want, not what they think they should be doing, and then developing a strategy that will help them take the steps they need to reach that goal. So as a clarity coach, I'm really helping people think about not just where they should be or what they think people expect them to do, but what they truly want to be, what their dreams are, and then accepting that and not being afraid of it, and then going out there and reaching it. My ideal client is really, it's me. It's senior level executive women who are high performing and they're high achievers. They are doing well where they are, but just something's not working. I will say that those aren't the only people in the world who need clarity. And, I'm currently working with a man who is an active duty member of the military, who is, very senior in the military, but seeking to retire and thinking about what he wants to do with his life. I'm also currently working with a mid-level professional who is high achieving, but just isn't happy where she's at in her company and looking to pivot careers and also make a move to a different part of the country. So I think that this message resonates with a wide variety of people, but in terms of how I think about marketing and my focus, it's that senior level, high performing woman executive who just isn't sure what she wants to do next, who I think is my ideal client. So, with that said, since we last spoke, I've developed a couple of different mechanisms in order to reach people. The first is a 6-month program that I'm calling the Pathway to Clarity. And that program includes an analysis report of an individual's leadership style. It includes monthly 60-minute check-in or coaching sessions. People get the option of having an additional kind of 20-minute session if they have an urgent issue. There's unlimited text messaging with that in case they have questions. There's a mid-program kind of check-in to make sure that the roadmap as it has been developed thus far is working or needs to be tweaked. And then at the end, there's a strategic career roadmap that a person walks away with in that program. So again, this program is ideally designed for the person who is thinking that they need a more radical pivot in what they're doing. But I also get a lot of people who are happy with where they're at, but they just, in their leadership journey, need to work through some issue. Maybe there's a change management issue. Maybe they're working through performance challenges on their team, that type of thing. So the next program, From Confusion to Clarity, is designed with that person in mind. It includes, it's really meant to be a 2-month program that includes 3 sessions, 3 one-hour sessions. They're going to get follow-up within the 6 months after completing the program, and they'll get access to worksheets and action planning documents. They're going to help them work through the specific challenge that they're bringing to the table. Additionally, with encouragement from James, I've designed a couple of workbooks, one on really thinking about your dreams and goals, one on strategic planning, and we'll talk a little bit about the marketing here in a moment, one on marketing, that as I meet potential clients or as people sign up for information on my website, they receive access to these for free. So through my initial touch points with leads, I usually, depending on what their needs are, send them one of these workbooks and then encourage them through the workbook to schedule a 30-minute free call with me so that we can talk about their needs, identify if they're the right kind of client for me, and move forward. I haven't talked a lot about the marketing part of the company. It's really kind of falling into the background, but the truth of the matter is a great deal of my career, both at State and YouTube, was about messaging. And so I do offer those services, although it's not the part of the company that I'm leaning into pushing at this time. I want to talk a little bit about the Leadership Tea podcast, which I co-host with a former colleague who is still at the State Department. Our 1-year anniversary will be in February. We're currently in season 2. The podcast is doing really well. We're reaching a global audience. We typically speak to women who are leaders in their industry. We try to speak to government leaders around the world or folks in the private sector, entrepreneurs, academia, nonprofits. We run the gamut. And we talk to them about specific challenges that we wish we had thought about as we were one promotion or so away from the C-suite. And we find that the statistics show that our typical listener is mid-career in the United States or Western Europe, although we do have a big audience in Mexico. And that person is typically looking for is typically thinking about where they want to go in their career, and they're not quite sure where that is, and they're looking for some kind of resource that speaks to them in a nuanced way and gives them some breadcrumbs towards that. With the podcast, we are not seeking to monetize through traditional means like advertising. Rather, we've done some workshops with government agencies. We've looked at hosting some events. And then through the podcast, we've been asked by our listeners to offer a coaching program, which seems to be popular to look at, but nobody has quite yet bought. So it's like a little problem, but it's still there. It's an opportunity that we're missing out on. We also sell merchandise, but that's really for trademark purposes later on. So what's next? So what I'm finding is that when people meet me, right, when they hear my story, when they hear what I offer, they love it. They're interested. They want to connect, right? But something happens with the follow through. Part of it is that people who are really attracted to working with me are also, um, I won't say crisis may be a strong word, but they're in a tough place in terms of how they're thinking about their professional life and even picking up the phone and or sending that email or responding to my message to connect feels really emotional and heavy. So it takes a lot of touch points to get someone into that 10-minute, 30-minute, just talk to me a little more so we can start the journey process. So that's been really hard. I have a lot of people who say, I want to work with you. No one said it's too expensive. No one said I don't have the money. Everybody just doesn't quite follow through. So I want to generate, it's going to take more leads to really lock people in. So I'm figuring out how best to do that and then how best to convert those leads. And I should mention, I do have a presence on social media on Instagram. And I'm going to be honest with you all. I know what to do, but when it comes to me, I just don't like doing it. I don't love being on camera. I don't. I don't love making videos. I come from the trust and safety world at YouTube, and I know how dangerous the internet can be, and it's been really hard for me to get overdoing things for myself, even though I can easily guide people through the right things to do for their own companies. So social media is there, and I know I should use it. And I'm probably going to have to hire a social media manager to push me to do the things that I should do. What I want to do as I go into 2025, I want to go into 2025 strong. I feel really proud about where I've come so far in the last year and a half. So I'd really like to develop an aggressive 90-day strategy where I kind of push myself. I have a goal, and then I kind of want to 10x that goal and really push myself to do even better to begin to generate leads. In a perfect world, by the end of the next quarter, I would love to be bringing on 5 to 6 new clients a month in that 6-month journey program. I'd like to also consider options to whether it's taking some of the blog content I have, some of the podcast content, or even my own content, but creating classes behind a paywall that people can click into on their own time and don't necessarily require me to be present and live is something that I would like to get to. And that may be easier for people to access at the entry point when they are too afraid to really start the coaching journey more formally. And finally, with the podcast, we have recently hired a producer who's going to help us monetize and build a YouTube presence and kind of refine our editing process and help us begin to branch out and use the podcast for more speaking and workshop opportunities. So with that, I will stop. I'll say thank you to all of you for your time, and I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on my questions. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Belinda. I love the journey you've been on. It's been great. So listen, guys, we're going to jump into Q&A. Please go ahead and raise your hands if you have questions for Belinda. We'll take them as they appear. I'll do my best to make sure I get you in the right order. So first is Brad. So Brad, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Belinda your question.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And Belinda, thank you for your presentation. I really like the tagline that I presume you worked on with James, were about weaving the marketing tagline about weaving that expertise in there. I think it's a really succinct statement about what you could do. I guess my question is, with respect to social media, have you considered a LinkedIn strategy? To me, it kind of feels like perhaps Instagram would be a really good platform for your podcast, but LinkedIn might be a better platform for your general messaging about the services you provide. And that way, you might not necessarily need to be in front of a camera all the time, but you can craft messages that resonate with executives and other individuals who are looking at leadership positions and are engaged in that particular platform.
No, thank you for that question. And you're right. No, James has mentioned I should be thinking about LinkedIn, and it's something I need to follow through with. I think an occasional live, I wouldn't mind. And I do think that beginning to post small blog pieces on LinkedIn is probably a good way to go. So that is something I should integrate in the next year. Before I go on, should I stop sharing, or is this helpful for me to keep my questions here?
No, we're fine. That's fine.
Okay,
I
cool.
think.
I just wanted to make sure. That's fine.
So we're going to go John Rutenberg, John Foster, Nancy, then Melinda. So, GR.
Thank you. Hey, Belinda, thank you so much, and thank you for returning. It's
Yes,
great to
thank
see you and appreciate your progress. How did you come up with the 6-month program as opposed to a 3-month program, for example? What made it 6 months?
So, as James and I had conversations, and I had conversations with others, this idea of when people are making a major change, they need, it takes time to get there. And so what I wanted to demonstrate to people, so it's partly a marketing play as well. What I want to demonstrate to people is that one, there's not a quick fix to their problem, but two, that I am not just trying to sell them something, that I actually care about them, and I really want to be there in the long term to take them on this path, and get them where they need to be. So that was kind of the thinking, that it is actually a lengthy process. It will take time to see results. And if I want to be able to say that I'm delivering a quality product and results for you, I need to be there in the long term.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Foster. You're on mute, John.
There we go. You think I know how to operate this thing by now. Belinda, I got to tell you, I so appreciate what you were doing. And Brad stole my thunder. He talked about LinkedIn right out of the box. But certainly from what you're doing, and I think the statistics bear it out, is there's still a huge lack of content on LinkedIn from a creator standpoint.
Yeah.
So I think you have a huge opportunity there, from both just getting your, continue to get your brand out. And then the other thing, I had one quick question for you. I was just a little lost in when you're talking about the different programs, and kind of what you're offering, what you are offering, what you're looking to offer. So
Fair. Yeah, no, I kind of muddled that. You were correct. So with the 6-month program, basically it's this. You get to meet every month, right? You get a coaching session every month. I'm kind of stealing a little bit from James, so that's nice too. You get to, let's say you have, I'll use an example from a recent client who had an opportunity after our coaching session for the month. She ran into someone who was a potential mentor, and convinced them to have lunch with her. And she was like, wow, I've got this opportunity. What should I ask? How should I leverage it? So she's like, hey, Belinda, can you jump into a call and let's talk about how I can leverage this opportunity? And so we did. We had a quick, it ended up being 30 minutes, but a quick call on, yes, you've got this opportunity. So she knew she had access to me, right? She had a hiccup with, sending her resume to an organization, and was texting me about it, like, oh man, I sent the recruiter the wrong thing. What do you think? And I'm like, oh, I think you should just pick up the phone and call them. So she feels like she has access, and no one has yet abused the text messaging element. I may one day have to put a limit on that, but we'll see. So it's making people feel that they really are supported without making me feel overburdened. So it's the coaching session, if you have an emergency, a quick check-in, and if you got a quick question, feel free to text. Then there is also this idea that, there are lots of leadership um, online kind of surveys you can pay for, whether it's like the HBDI or DISC or that kind of thing. So providing people with a snapshot of where they stand as a leader, which also helps them communicate about and think about what resonates with them and where they want to go. Having a check-in 3 months into the process, in addition to that 3 month coaching session, just saying like, where are we? What are we doing? Is this working? Do we need to pivot? So even though I know it's there, really marking that for people as a check-in, we're halfway through. And then finally giving people a roadmap as they leave, saying like, okay, we've got this plan, it's working. Like, here's your next steps. Let me hand it to you. So they feel like they walked away with something. That was my effort there. So I don't want to belabor two
Yep.
things, but I hope that clarifies at least one of the programs.
Yep. Thank you.
Cool. We're going to go Nancy, Melinda, then Jane, then Reggie, then Scott.
Belinda,
So
thanks for presenting today. It was great. In terms of converting coaching leads, I mean, you've got one of the sort of problems in that I do, and that you've got a lot of what you're doing is sort of the intangible. But part of that is talking to and reflecting back to them as to why they're seeking you out. So, having the conversation with them about, well, if you don't do this, where are you going to be in a month? Where are you going to be in 2 months? What's going to change for you in your situation if you don't move forward with something like this? So have them look at sort of the opposite of moving forward. If they're feeling stuck and frustrated and confused and unclarified, that's not going to change unless they take action, which helps sort of nudge them towards taking the action that you want them to, which is working with you. Because you're just reflecting back of, hopefully earlier in your conversation, you said, why have you basically had the meeting, why did you want to talk to me? Why have you come sought me out? Well, I sought you out because I liked your presentation. I liked what you said about clarifying our goals. I liked the process. And you can reflect that back. Well, if you don't do this in a month, where do you think you're going to be on the goals of taking your next step towards the C-suite? Well, I'm not going to be anywhere because I haven't done anything. Right. So helping them see that they need to take a step forward and they need to make the change. And that helps them see that they need to get past the block and convert that lead into action.
Thank you. I think all that makes sense.
Okay. Perfect. Good.
Melinda.
I've got first of all, fabulous presentation, Belinda. I loved it. And when you were talking about clarity, this big idea came into my head. I think you need to write a book, but all you're going to write is the beginning of the book about clarity and what it is. And then what you want to do is you want to get different women like Michelle Obama, who I heard on television yesterday, and with a school teacher. Anyway, long story is get some people with names to write a chapter of how they've gotten clarity. Then you will have your ambassadors to help you promote everything you're doing. And you've got more people that you will have working on your side. And I've seen this work. I saw somebody do it in the early 2000s and it made their business. I mean, it was incredible. And I think if you take advantage of clarity and doing that.
I like that. People are often telling me I should write a book.
Yep.
Me getting around that was starting the podcast instead.
But this is even easier because all you have to do is write the beginning and have others tell their story.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Okay. And I wrote down ambassadors with that, but I think a lot of these folks can become your ambassadors, and you will get these people talking about it on talk shows and all other places. That's going to give you the visibility to reach it. I'm not sure social media is where you're going to find a lot of folks other than on LinkedIn, because these women that you're talking about, they don't do Facebook. They don't they don't do social media. I mean, I've been around a lot of executives. You've got to get them where they are. So where are they? Maybe they're going to something that NABO has for executive women. NABO is another organization. Maybe there are some other ways to reach executive women, that a trade show, somebody else doing something, that you come in as a partner, or you come in as a sponsor and you're at that event with a big booth or something. And you're also a speaker, a keynote speaker.
Yeah, that's what I need, is like more when I am a speaker or a workshop presenter, that really drives contact. And I've got to figure out how to do more of that. I just feel like and just building on all of those points, I would just say a big problem I have, which is just something I need to learn in terms of sales, is I meet people, we connect, they immediately feel like we're friends, and it's hard to get them back over into the lead side because they think there's something about me. We chat, and then people think we are really we're buddies, and I'm just going to continue to give them help for free. Um, I'm going through that issue now with
I've done that. I get that. There are ways to convert it, and there are things you can learn that will change the conversation around by, again, going back to their pain points.
yeah,
And they don't do something. What Nancy said,
Conversion,
it was right on the money.
conversion strategy is the whole thing. We're going to get to all that stuff.
yeah,
We're going to get.
James is on it.
But
I
I
just want to get. I want to make sure we get the questions done, guys. That's all,
Okay,
just
I'm
from a
sorry.
time standpoint.
Yes.
So we've got Jen, Reggie, Scott, and then Alex. So Jen, you're up.
Belinda, love your presentation, and your background is eclectic and extraordinary. I would definitely highlight that expertise. One of the networks that I'm familiar with, you may be familiar as well, is the organization called the Wild Network.
No.
I'm putting a link to their conference in May. A friend of mine founded it, so I'm happy to make an introduction. They specifically work with women in leadership development, especially in the international development sector.
Oh.
So whether it's World Bank, USAID, IABD, all of these organizations that you might want to work with, they also, could have plenty of guests on there. A clarifying question for your podcast. I think you have guest speakers. Is your target audience, if I think about the executive women, is it really in the development space, or are you looking in other sectors? So who's an ideal client for you based on your own expertise?
We are working hard to try to push out of the international affairs space, because both of us have such strong ties to that. Right now, that is a large part of the audience. And so that is why we've gone out of our way to have a diversity of guests across sectors. But I would say that I have to go back and look at our Spotify and Apple numbers, but I believe it's something like, 60% of our listeners are in government somewhere in the world. But we do want to expand it. We are so heavily in government and senior government officials that we've been approached by other governments to advertise so that they can try to influence those groups. We do want to expand.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. Reggie.
Hi, Belinda. Great job. I wanted to ask if you consider yourself a career coach or a leadership coach, or both. And I think how you choose to position yourself will help in terms of finding the people that want that coaching, because not everybody that's looking to make a move in their career or even move up, it thinks of themselves as a leader. So it's two different audiences basically. So I think your clarity coach, like clarifying that, will help further refine the people that identify themselves as needing your services. And then I think speaking engagements, including going on other people's podcasts, now that you have a successful podcast of your own, your background alone, the stories you could tell, I think it really lends itself to that medium, particularly if you're not let me make videos and film myself and put myself on the internet. You're kind of already doing that, so I know you're comfortable with that, and you have a presence and a background that would lend itself to that medium, I think. And then lastly, like, I'm really interested in your diplomatic background, and I feel like there are lessons that you can pull from that to bring into your coaching like a little bit more. It's kind of touched on your website and even in your presentation, but I feel like that's really interesting to people because like that's really important, but it's also something that is kind of hidden away from the average person. But the way that you learn about how to talk to people, how to get out of sticky situations, how to bring people with different agendas and priorities together around, a common set of ideas. Like, I think that is really valuable and it's kind of under emphasized in how you're showing up now. And I think you could pull more of those things into how you offer your services, and that would make you stand out more. And I think that's something that not other coaches, leadership, career, otherwise, can bring to the table. So I would just think about how you can add that into what you're doing a little bit more to help you differentiate.
All great points. Thank you. You've given me something to think about with the diplomacy point. So let me think about how I can integrate that. On the leadership versus career, like I'm gonna have to sit with that. Right now, I'm working with the Inter-American Foundation, which is a small U.S. government development agency, on what was supposed to be helping them with some leadership challenges and coaching their senior leadership team. But it's a thin line between career and career and leadership, and so I just need to think about that. I think you're right, and I'm probably a career coach is more appropriate. I'm just afraid of people asking me to do things like, fix their resume and stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't want to tell you, but I know who to send you to. So let me think about that. Thank you.
No. Scott. And guys, could we just be conscious of time? Sorry about that, but just let's be conscious, keep it concise. Thank you.
So I'm curious to learn a little bit more about, you have a podcast. What is the focus audience? Like, who is the audience that you ultimately want to reach? And what kinds of topics are you seeing that are resonating? Like, are you seeing certain podcasts are getting a lot more attention than others? And how have you responded in relation to those? Because that might help you understand what message is resonating and really double down on understanding that audience. Because I think what Reggie said, right? Even if I'm sitting here thinking about who would I refer you to, having clarity on what are the kinds of topics, what are the kinds of services between like career and leadership, those kinds of things would be helpful. So I'm trying to understand better your audience, and who you want to reach more of.
Sure, I'll keep it quick. When we design every episode and as we design the podcast, we were thinking in State Department terms. So I'm going to give you, I'll put it in like USG terms. Like we were imagining a GS 14 or 15 at State, that's a 1 or a 2, but a GS 14 or 15 who's thinking about becoming senior executive service, and what lessons do they need to know before they're leading large teams or leading whole agencies or parts of agencies, right? We were thinking about that person who's like one promotion away from being really at the table. What are our most popular episodes? Our most popular episodes are the ones where we do not have a guest. And so we have leaned into that. We've pivoted. So for the rest of the year, so we're going to have one more episode this month. We'll probably have 2 in January. Those will just be us. And then season 3, and this kind of leans back to what Reggie just asked about the diplomacy side of it. Season 3 will just be us with no guests, maybe a bonus episode here and there with a guest, and it will be focused on our leadership playbook, which is really going to be drawing heavily from our diplomatic experience and turning that into lessons that people can understand across agencies, across industries. So, and who do we want to reach? Look, here's the point. Diplomats don't have money. They don't have money, especially when they're in America. So we want people to buy coaching programs, whether it's our joint one, or we want people to, hire us to speak or be in their workshops. And so we want to expand really to people who are in academia or the corporate space who have access to the resources that will help us grow. We believe that our lessons apply to them as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Alex. Alex Matini.
My apologies.
There
Belinda, two things. Over the last couple of years, I've gained a lot of experience with LinkedIn marketing. I'd be more than happy to share with you the results, the good and the bad and the ugly. Second note, you and I are market mates. That's a phrase we've coined for working with our colleagues in parallel industries. You and I have the same target audience. So what I use effectively to reach out to my audience may very well work for you as well. If I have your contact information here in chat, I'll reach out to you and we can set up a one-on-one.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll drop my information in the chat soon.
Great.
Thanks, Alex. Maria, you have a question.
Yes, I was thinking about one of my favorite things to do with YouTube is to see my podcasters in a room where they're recording the podcast.
Yeah.
So if you're already doing that, I feel that adding a camera and pretty much, I'm gonna be being honest, getting over yourself.
I know.
It's the biggest part. You look amazing every single time I've seen you. That you're already there. I think having a room where you can share what you're already sharing in a different platform, I think you don't need to do a whole lot more about that. Another thing is you have those podcasts already. I think that it would be good for you to just have the transcript placed into ChatGPT and you have, work on a good prompt that you can have the highlights and takeaways from that conversation and then create some written content that you can also put back into LinkedIn. And then, that's how you can create it into smaller articles. And one of the things that I was looking in your posts is I didn't have a whole lot of time because I was trying to listen to your presentation, but I don't see you, coming up, advertising your coming up episodes and also doing advertising of the past. So with small takeaways. And that is something that once you have that podcast, you can just get someone to do all that for you, get that graphics and start pushing that information because I've tried to record and that's the hardest part. You're already there.
Yeah. No, these are all good points, and that's why we are hiring this producer who's going to help us with content creation, editing, the audio, and YouTube, as well as some of the revenue generating stuff because it's a bandwidth issue also.
One of the things I've heard before, and this is from my business coach, she shows up all sweaty, no makeup, from a walk, giving some business advice. And those are her best performing videos.
Yeah.
That's it. So I was like, it's crazy. she's walking in, you know, the most vulnerable position, and she's doing good. So if she can do it, we can do it.
We can do it. You're right. You're right. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane, Nancy, Suleiman, Jane, you're up.
Just a few tactical thoughts, Belinda. When I work with clients, I give them a small, medium, or large package. The small package is like a strategy coaching session, but it can build into the next package and beyond. Your packages are bigger. There might be even a smaller one. And I know 3 months probably sounds small. There might be even a smaller one to get them to buy into that. And then they can scale and build into the other ones because sometimes people like the trust but verify approach. Second, I think there are a lot of coaches in the market. And so getting clear, not just on how you help, I would also share some statistics with people. So I was just looking at statistics for people who have coaching clients. 62% of coaching clients see a significant improvement in their career opportunities. I don't know what that means, but like some people decide based on metrics. If you look at ROI, the median ROI for coaching is 7 times the initial investment. People who have a career coach typically get promoted sooner, right? So I would use language around accelerating promotion or accelerating responsibility, or many people right now are just facing overwhelm. So how do you navigate your career without the overwhelm and burnout?
Yeah.
So I would really think through very, very specific emotional messages, but also some people decide based on numbers as well. And so something around the financial benefit or something specific, tangible. My last thought would be, I think it's helpful to have either an assessment or a mental model, like a framework for how do you assess someone in their career? How do you know when they have confusion? What are those things so that you can move them through a process and show them that you have a methodology, that it's not fluffy or woo-woo? Because I think a lot of people don't take on coaching because they're not sure what it's really going to be. So the more you can make it tangible, as Nancy said earlier, it's kind of intangible. The more you can make it tangible, I think the easier it will be to convert people. Actually, I did have one more thought. The other was group coaching. If you haven't considered that, I think a lot of people need an informal way to connect and accountability partners. Group coaching might be a way to optimize price and your time as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Nancy.
Building on what Maria said, you've got 28 episodes in the can, and that is a book. So getting that, I mean, any content you put out, you should be using a minimum of 4 times. So the original source, a blog, tweets, or Blue Sky or whatever platforms you're on, LinkedIn content, right? You should be extorting the heck out of the content you have so that you're not constantly recreating the wheel. You've got 28 lovely, beautiful podcasts. Use them. That's the book that you just have to edit and make pretty. That's all of the content for the next year that you can pull from. That it's not a bandwidth, you've done it. You just have to have someone pretty it up and put it into a system that's going to auto post it for you.
Yeah.
And that gets out your message, it gets your reach out there, and it's passive because you've already done the work.
That's fair. To that point, that was our original intention. The podcast Modern Diplomacy, a friend of ours did that several years ago, and he did the same thing. He took the transcripts and turned it into a book.
Yep.
And that was our original hope. So you're correct. That needs to go on
Yeah.
the 2025 plan.
Awesome. Suleiman, you are the last question, and then we need to take a wrap up.
Okay, thank you so much. Your background and this presentation, what you're doing right now, it's amazing. I'm interested on that, and it was really great that I heard about this all. Since on my background, I spent lots of my career on the government side as well, work with USAID and some other agencies as well. So it was interesting for me. I had noted some points. First, I would love to have a one-on-one 30-minute meeting with you to discuss about some opportunities. Second, did you ever thought about like some opportunities for newcomers or someone who was executive or women executives in overseas and they just entered to US, since there are many organizations they are supporting like their career development and many other programs for educational programs.
Yeah.
Which once you will offer something for them, then there will be easy to find out those agencies that they are working with them, because most of them, as I'm in the picture, most of them were like in the diplomatic sector, and they used to work with international development agencies. And now they are starting in something totally different sector than their expertise. And that will be some, in some cases, if you would like to focus on. And also, there is another opportunity on overseas. If you would like to have some partnership with some of those nonprofits in DC area, and that they have some projects for overseas, like third world countries. And in that third world countries, women especially, they face many challenges if they will be in the executive levels. If you would love to focus on that one, that might be a big market for you as well.
Hi,
And
Suleiman. Sorry,
Right,
don't mean to
we
interrupt.
need to wrap this up, Suleiman.
Yeah, we only have 3
Come
minutes
on.
left,
All
so
of
we
that
need to.
sounds great. I think it'd be good for it. Let's definitely connect.
yeah, sure.
I love it. Thank you. I'm putting my info in the chat now.
All right, Scott, you're back up. Final question.
All right. So our final question: what can our 1 Million Cups community help you with today?
So I think you guys have given me a lot of what I needed today, which is really ideas about how to expand my reach so that I can begin to create more leads. And so I would offer that I'm going to take a look at the chat. I'm going to re-listen to this recording and just being open to maybe I might reach out to some of you all again, just to follow up on some of the stuff you suggested and learn a bit more. And that's it. Thank you so much. And if you ever need anything from me, you know how to find me. I'm happy to help.
All right. Thank you so much, Belinda. So happy holidays to everyone. This is
Hey,
our last
Alex
meeting.
has a question.
My apologies. I'm going to take a few months, well, at least a couple of months of leave of absence. I will definitely miss this group. And